Hello, everyone, and welcome to Once Upon a Time at the Oscars.
The show that takes you through every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to today.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
7. That's where we're at.
Oh, I thought you were doing the Friends 7.
That's one of my favorite Monica moments.
It's one of the best.
It's very funny.
For sure. But just like Monica said, it is the 7 years of the Academy Awards. We are in our 7th year, 1934. We are now doing our ceremony episode to recap everything that we've talked about, all of these movies. And it's a big one because it's our first of 2 years in a row that actually has 12 nominees.
Yeah, which, if you've been following along, that's why we've had this crazy schedule. I say crazy. Like
abnormal.
We jumped from 1 month to a month and a half.
Unheard of.
This show?
You know what's funny is if we're being really like tailored to the Oscars and its history, we kind of just did what they've been doing.
Yeah, we did. Well, we did it in reverse.
We treated months as years.
Yeah.
And they're like, we treated years as months.
And then when they corrected it, we were like, watch this. And then we stretched it across a month and a half.
But look, who has time for 4 episodes in 1 week, right? Like,
not me.
Not us. And not you, listener. So we want to make sure we split it up evenly. So here we are at the middle of the month with our ceremony episode before we hop into 1935.
You know, one thing about calling it the 7th Academy Awards 1934, I feel like one day we're going to get called out for that. Because we always say, oh, we're covering the films from 1934.
Yeah.
So this is the 1934 year, which is true.
Yes.
But then the ceremony takes place the following year. So just know, listener at home, this is the 1935 Academy Awards covering the films from 1934, and we know. So you don't have to call us out.
Unless you are Robert Osborne or the family of the Osbornes, and not that one, and you wrote the years of the Oscar, the official history of the Academy Awards, in which the pages read 1934, the 7th year, then we don't want to hear it.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But you bring up an interesting point because we brought this up at the beginning of our coverage of the 1934 year. But this is the first year in which they actually followed a schedule that made some damn sense.
It's true.
January 1st, 1934 to December 31st, 1934. And that is the eligibility window for these movies.
I'm going to clap real quick.
Little.
It's so much easier. And I know I just confused it by saying, like, by the way, audience, but it really is just so much easier to tell people what we're covering on the show.
Yes, and it will stay this way for a while. Not forever, because, you know, COVID.
Yeah, but even that's temporary, so it's like...
it fixes itself. It's okay. But we are going to get into it. A couple things about this. First off, a couple big things are going to happen on this one. And these are things that I look for now at the Oscars whenever we have a current year. I'm always wondering, you know, who's going to pick up the Big Five? What does the Big Five mean? We talked about it a little bit on the individual episode for this movie, but we'll get there just in case you missed that one. And some fun things happened here, special awards and new awards that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
That we'll tackle. So, do you want to hop right into the location here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 7th Academy Awards were held on Wednesday. Isn't that weird?
The funny thing is it's on a Sunday normally now, right?
Yeah.
So technically I still have to go to work the next day.
That's true.
So I guess Wednesday I would welcome it.
Yeah. It's just weird to me for these folks.
Oh, sure.
Who I guess they just say, yeah, I can't work Wednesday.
Yeah.
I've got to get ready for this thing. Yeah, it's just bizarre a little bit. But
do we know previously? I mean, I could flip through these pages, but Wednesday, was that like a pretty standard?
I really don't know. I don't remember the day screaming out to me like, hey, I'm not Sunday, but who knows? Anyway, I mean, we know, but we're not flipping pages back.
No.
Wednesday, February 27th, 1935. It was hosted at the Biltmore Bowl at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles, California.
That's right. And our host of the evening was Irvin S. Cobb, who was pictured in here with Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
And it did at one point look like a horror movie because he's definitely intentionally making a face for the camera that looks pretty horrifying.
S. Cobb is going to get you.
You better watch out.
Are you familiar with Irvin S. Cobb?
I can't say I am.
I had to look him up. He was a newspaper journalist that was very, very popular. I think he's been like posthumously commended by Kentucky for his work. He was also a comedian at times, so he's written a few different things.
It makes some sense with this image.
Yeah. I think he also acted in a couple movies, which might be his connection here and why they chose him. He's like, oh, he's funny and he's been in a couple of pictures. Let's get Irvin.
Who was the host of previous years that we've made fun of?
Conrad Nagel?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But remember, he's been kind of booted out of Hollywood.
Oh, that's true.
For all of the...
I was just about to say, what if Conrad Nagel was just like sitting outside watching Irvin S. Cobb? He's just like, he didn't do it as good as me.
Yeah. He may have been, like, over in Europe, listening in on the radio, like, let Cobb.
I kind of think of him a little bit as like Mystique, a little bit, where like he's going to be like taking the ticket taker.
Yeah.
And wearing like, but like bad Mystique. So like have like a mustache or something.
He's like Bruce Campbell in the Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're going to be like noticing him immediately and be like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Nagel. And he's like, no, please.
Not me.
I can host again. What a dumb bit.
What a tangent.
What a guy. Yeah, so Conrad Nagel was not hosting this one. Yeah. And to your point, he had been kind of ousted by Hollywood.
Yeah, because of all the controversy with the studios and I guess they were kind of like strikes at the time. And he stepped down as Academy president and all of that. And then he was like, I need to go. I need to get away from this for a little while. So this is the second year that he has not hosted. And we got Irvin.
We got Irvin. So not a ton of setup for this one. There was a little bit of controversy to this one. And to my knowledge, this is the first that we've heard of something like this, to where maybe it's gained enough notoriety and popularity to where when people are watching these movies, this must be one of the first years where audiences are like, oh yeah, I saw this performance. I can't wait to hear it being recognized at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Because what ended up happening was when the nominees were announced for the 1934 awards, there was a bit of protesting that came out. Massive critical argument with the selections that were made. The reason for this is that two main performances that were heralded as the favorites of the year were Bette Davis for Of Human Bondage and Myrna Loy in The Thin Man. And I just want to stop right there and say, how were we alive in 1934? Because it sounds like you and I were the audience behind Myrna Loy not getting the nomination.
Yeah. Well, we loved her so much in The Thin Man. And it wasn't until I reread that little factoid that I was like, oh yeah, she didn't get nominated. No. Interesting.
Which is crazy because, I mean, when you look at who ended up winning, it makes a bit of sense when you look at all the nominations and all the movies they were a part of. But Myrna Loy was just one of my favorite performances.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I always try to separate best and favorite.
Right.
So I know that Myrna Loy was one of my favorites, but was she the best? It's hard to say.
Right. As far as Bette Davis goes, that right there is a big deal as well, because she is a name that is going to show up time and time again on this show and at the Academy Awards. And I did start watching Of Human Bondage. Usually when we do these ceremonies, I'm like, okay, what are the movies that weren't Best Picture that are really going to stand out as important?
Notable.
This was the one. Mm-hmm. So I started it. I didn't get an opportunity to finish it, but she's such an interesting character and such a strange performance in that movie. The whole movie is basically this guy meets this girl that he's completely infatuated with, and she just kind of teases him the whole time. And a lot of stuff happens with like pregnancies and stuff, and him agreeing to take care of this baby out of wedlock. And I really want to finish it. It feels strange. But her performance, I'm so interested as to what audiences saw in it. If it was just so taboo, they were like, nobody could have done it but her.
Yeah, it's almost one of those arguments that makes more sense in hindsight now. Like us knowing the legacy of Bette Davis, it's like, yeah, how'd you not nominate her? But to say that in 1934, it must have been a hell of a performance.
Yeah, especially, coming into the Hays Code era. It's just a really weird performance.
Very strange. Yeah, that was the first time we've seen any kind of protest like that, at least notable protest. Yeah. So this resulted in a lot of telegrams, phone calls, newspaper editorials, trying to kind of reach the Academy and correct this wrong.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was the Academy announced on January 16th, 1935, that the voters would be allowed to disregard the printed ballot and write in any name they preferred.
Yeah.
So essentially, hey, here's the nominees, but if you want to write in some people, have fun with it.
What do you think of that? Is that something you would like to see in the modern day?
I think that I would like to see that when it comes to the nomination announcements and not the voting. Because I think when it's the voting, there's a lot of people that are like, don't get me wrong, I'm so happy that Amy Madigan won for Weapons for Best Supporting Actress. But I think that that kind of win and that kind of idea is what people would spend their time on when it comes to write-ins, where they'd be like, well, hey, Margaret Qualley was really good in The Substance, even though we're really talking about Demi Moore. And I think there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, but like this one person in this movie who is not listed for supporting because they're like the seventh build was so good. And I feel like that just like spreads the horizon too much to where we're not going to see like a true nomination. We'll see like, well, of a split audience, I guess this was the most notable. To me, I would want to see write-ins like that for the nomination, so we can like, you know, have a long-winded way of saying I do think we should have a set list of nominees, but I think those nominees should be up to interpretation.
I see. Do you think having write-ins as an option, that would prevent things like Hereditary?
Yeah, that not getting acknowledged.
Why can I not remember her name?
Oh, Toni Collette?
Toni Collette, thank you. Would that make it more likely that people like Toni Collette might show up, at least in the list of nominations?
100%. Because I think that was another year where this is kind of the exception to the rule. I think most people would be kind of torn and they would be voting maybe for Friends and stuff. But in this case, it felt like even people within the Academy were like, Toni Collette's doing something kind of legendary right now with this. Why are we not acknowledging that?
It is interesting. It's something... There's been a lot of things that show up in the years we've covered where I'm like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. And, you know, the being nominated for multiple movies thing, not crazy about that. Just pick the one performance.
Right.
But this is the one that I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe that could make things kind of interesting. But I think you're right. It would have to be for the nominees, not for the winners.
I also think we'll get back to this when it comes to Best Actress, because I think there's a reason the Academy is like, sure, yeah, we'll nominate those two other people if you want, but it's kind of futile with like what they're looking at.
Yeah, I will say, opening up that write-in option, they did do it so close to the Oscars that most of the ballots had already been filled out by that point.
True.
So,
I mean, again, this took place on February 27th, and that was announced on January 16th.
yeah, so just a little over a month.
Not a ton of time for that to get done. So it ended up resulting in pretty similar names. There's a few others that got added in, but for the most part, a lot of the nominations that were originally announced kind of followed suit.
It's very interesting to me.
That's really the only thing of note that was happening.
I have one other thing. Up to this point, the Academy was handling their own vote counts, really. This is the first year that they used an outside source, the one they still use to this day, the public accounting firm Price Waterhouse & Co. And I think it's specifically because of the tie that we had last year, as well as the write-ins and the controversy, and Bette Davis really thinking she deserved the win is like the major reason for having this company show up.
That does make a bit more sense, and obviously that's what we know for the future, right? If someone else handles the voting or the counting of that.
Yeah, so big year with not a lot of factoids, but some important factoids.
And I think the most important things that came out of this Academy Award year and the ceremony lie in the nominations and the wins. So,
yeah,
let's dive right into it. We're going to start with Special Award. In 1934, there was an award given out to a child for grateful recognition of her outstanding contribution to screen entertainment during the year of 1934. And I made this joke off pod, so I'm going to make it on pod as well. It was a miniature statuette for a miniature person.
Yeah, it was.
Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple.
So, what is your history with Shirley Temple?
Funny enough, I have a Shirley Temple doll in my bedroom that belonged to my grandmother.
Okay. Appreciate you laying that on the table early on.
She was a doll collector. She had a lot of porcelain dolls, and my mother was getting rid of just her collection after she passed.
Yeah.
And she was like, do you want any of these? And I'm like, do I want a doll? Probably not. And then I saw that and I was like, this is Hollywood related. I'll take this. Thanks. That's it. That's my connection to Shirley Temple.
So let me ask you this. Animal crackers in your soup.
Monkeys and rabbits. Loop-de-loop.
Do you prefer animal crackers in your soup, or are you just a soup guy? You want to keep them separated?
Yeah. Offspring style. Yeah. That's what I say.
You're a real Dexter in that sense. You love keeping the animal crackers and the soup separate.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
They get soggy.
Can I ask you a question about that lyric?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Animal crackers in my soup.
Got that part.
Monkeys and rabbits.
Monkeys and
loop-de-loop.
rabbits, loop-de-loop. Is loop-de-loop just kind of like a we need it?
You make them flip. They do loops. They're flipping around in the soup.
So instead of saying you can flip them with your spoon, she just said loop-de-loop.
Yeah.
You know,
flip them around doesn't rhyme with soup.
You can also make them loop. I guess that doesn't work either.
Loop to loop is fun, man.
I was just watching not TRL, but like a total request playlist or something on MTV the other day. Taylor and I got up really early yesterday. So when we got home and it was like 9:30 or 10, we were like, just put on MTV. I don't know. And we just had music videos playing. And Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake came on. And it was that moment where I looked back and I was like, we really were just throwing in Yeah and Baby and songs as like placeholders of like, I don't know what needs to go here.
Yeah.
I took this as a placeholder of like, I don't know, loop to loop.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's one of the best lines of the century. That's my other connection with the century, man. That's my other connection with Shirley Temple is waking up in the middle of the night to one of those infomercials of like Shirley Temple music or movies.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a Shirley Temple movie.
You talk about awards, and I feel like we should probably give an award to sound for the guy that was like, so this commercial for Metamucil, we're going to put it at a volume 15.
Oh.
This Shirley Temple Best of collection, I want 98 volume on this sucker.
This is such a tangent, but I want to throw this out. Did you see that they're passing a law in California where advertisements can no longer be put at a higher decibel level than the actual program?
It is unreal that we did just celebrate 250 years of this country. And we are just now trying to pass that legislation because that has been plaguing us, I guess, since the dawn of like television.
Yeah.
But in reality, easily one of the highlights / down points in our lives are falling asleep with the TV on and waking up to I guess I can't sing the song because for copyright issues, but like the Celine Dion, like
that's the one.
Yeah, waking up to like the best love songs, and you're like, huh,
yeah, and it's
I'm
like
awake.
The scene in Oppenheimer, but performed by Celine Dion.
I'm wearing the same glasses and everything.
Yeah, your hair blows back. It's rough.
Nailed it. This is about Shirley Temple.
It is. Last thing about Shirley Temple in this award, they've brought up in recent history about having a juvenile award for like child actors. Do you think that that's something that should appear in the modern Oscars?
I think, I don't know about child. I'll meet you halfway. I think I mentioned this earlier, but there should be like a up and coming award, like first time award.
Yeah.
For like, this is the first movie you've been in and like, it's this damn good. I think there should be something like that. But I don't know if it should be like, hey, you're younger than like
have a category for like 5 children. I think that
because at that point it'd be like for Bridge to Terabithia, where it's like, all right.
Well, I worry more that it's too much pressure on a child.
Oh yeah, because then the kids are less like, let me have a good time, and they're more like,
I've got to win my Oscar.
My dad, Daniel Day-Lewis, will get me to succeed.
Yeah,
and then he starts like method acting on Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Bring it.
He's like the cheese touch. I think that's from that movie.
Yeah, just something to think about.
Yeah. Academy, hope you're listening.
Don't do it. Those poor kids don't need it.
They don't need it. We just need an up-and-comer. And if they want to do that, cool. But don't put the pressure on them. That's it. Shirley Temple just won an award.
We won't take this long on every award, but...
Promise. And that leads us to our first actual nomination list, short subjects.
Short subjects. So, again, we have the 3 small subcategories, rather.
What are those categories?
Cartoons, comedy, and novelty. Novelty, which I found out is anything that doesn't fall into those categories. It's like educational, training videos, which will be a huge thing in the 40s. But anyway, cartoons, we had Holidayland, the Screen Gems Columbia picture, Jolly Little Elves, Lance Universal, and the winner, The Tortoise and the Hare, another Disney film. So they just keep coming. And it really shows you the powerhouse that Disney was in the early years. You want me to do the whole category?
I wish you would.
Okay. The comedy category, we have Le Cucaracha, Pioneer Pictures, RKO Radio, which we did hear that song in Viva Villa.
We did.
Popular song in the time. What? No Men? The Warner Brothers picture. And what is it? Oh, Men in Black, the Will Smith song. Also Jules White from Columbia. And the winner here was La Cucaracha.
Kudos to you for that. I do want to point out, though, in my book, it does have Men in Black listed and then What No Men. I think this is really funny because it sounds like Men in Black, and someone's like, we don't know, it's Women in Black. And someone's like, what? No men. Anyways.
Did I say who won? La Cucaracha.
You did.
Okay. And then finally, for the novelty category, we have Bosom Friends, Skibo Educational Fox, City of Wax, Skibo Educational Fox. Skibo just sounds rough. And Strikes and Spares, Pete Smith, MGM, which I'm assuming is a bowling short.
Sounds like it, especially for novelty.
One of these days, I'll come back and I'll watch all these. The winner here was City of Wax. I wish I could tell you more about it.
Maybe we'll tag in Bryce. We should have like a little Bryce corner. I've watched these shorts.
Yeah. And all it is you cut to him and he goes, yeah, I've seen that.
He's like, it's fine.
That's it.
It's about bowling.
Not even an opinion. I just want him to say, no, I didn't see that one.
We're like, Bryce? He's like, yes. You're like, great.
Thank you. Back to you, Ryan.
So that leads us to assistant director. We had 3 nominations. We had Scott Beale for Imitation of Life. We covered that. Colin Tate for Cleopatra. We covered that too.
We did.
And John Waters for Viva Villa. Hey, we covered that too. And I just want to go ahead and say, not that John Waters.
You say it every time, and I feel like it's important.
Just want to make sure everyone knows that it's not the same John Waters. And I say that because John Waters did win assistant director for Viva Villa. Assistant director is something that we're going to be talking about for a little bit here. You mentioned assistant director and specifically what they do. What do those responsibilities include?
Yeah, they're really the kind of the catch-all on set, from at least my experience working on a film set. Anybody that has an issue, if it's the lighting department, if it's the sound department, instead of going to the director who is just focused on the shot and what they want, they approach the assistant director, and they're just handling every little detail on set. And me working in background, they also typically, if they don't dish it out to production assistants, they will set the background actors themselves. The most confusing thing about the assistant director category for me is that the winner here, and I think the winner of every year we'll cover where this was a category, is not the winner of the best director category. Like the 2 films, or I'm sorry, the film doesn't have best director and best assistant. I don't know why the assistants are winning and then the directors are not being recognized.
Yeah, so it sounds almost like this is kind of like a fixer role.
Yeah.
Which makes sense that Viva Villa is the one to win.
With all of its troubled production.
Troubled production, filming on location. There's a lot that can go and did go wrong with that. So I think this is a funny award to give out because, I mean, A, earned, but B, it also feels kind of like a, hey, man, we heard about what happened on the set.
Yeah. Thanks for cleaning up.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate you, dog.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and one that I don't think most modern audiences know, like, was a category.
Yes.
And knowing so many, like, ADs in Atlanta, I'd be curious to know what they thought about the award returning, if that was a possibility.
Yeah, I wonder, because I think obviously this is still very early on in the inception of the Academy, and a lot of the production means here. So there's a lot of things that we haven't really thought through yet when it comes to filming on location. See Trader Horn, see Viva Villa, to a less dramatic example. And I think that there's more responsibilities that fall under assistant director that's more like, hey, fix this. Whereas now productions are a little more lock and key, a little tighter of a ship. So it's more, how did you organize these things, probably. Again, not saying they don't have as many contributions, but I imagine now it's more difficult for people to watch a movie and be like, oh, the assistant director on this must have crushed it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in how they feel about that. Not what I said, but whether there's an award for it. And that leads us to a pretty awesome thing that we're going to talk about here, which is music.
Yeah. So this is the new category, split into 2 subcategories. Tremendous deal just for movies in general. Up to this point, we've had scores that show up, but they feel kind of tacked on, or they don't necessarily follow the action on screen.
Well, last year we talked about Little Women, and Little Women feeling like the first movie, or one of the first, that actually had a score behind the scenes.
Yes.
While the scenes are playing. And this year they took note, and they said, hey, that's happening more and more. We need to start recognizing that.
Yeah.
And not only did they recognize that with score, they recognized that with song.
Yeah, right out the gate.
Which is pretty fantastic.
Which I assume you can attribute to there being so many musicals at the time.
Sure, absolutely.
If that weren't the case, you wouldn't have that category at all. But to get into those nominees, for Best Song, we have Karaoke from the film Flying Down to Rio, the RKO radio picture. The Continental, from The Gay Divorcee, RKO radio. Both of these are Fred and Ginger movies. And then Love and Bloom from She Loves Me Not, Paramount Pictures. This, of course, went to the film and song that we covered, The Continental.
Pretty big deal. I mean, when you have a song that takes on as a craze and is now a dance phenomenon, it's probably going to win some awards.
And a vocal stem for me.
You know what's really funny about the vocal stem is it's just the name.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of...
The Continental.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
It'll be yours too now. You'll see.
We'll see.
For score, we have The Gay Divorcee, RKO Radio, The Lost Patrol, RKO Radio, and One Night of Love from Columbia. And this went to One Night of Love, which, if you'll remember, is the big opera film we watched.
Pretty impressive to pull this in. I mean, One Night of Love being what it is makes a good bit of sense that music is going to be a very large part of it. Pretty interesting thing to note here, from this inception year to 1937, the best score was considered a music department achievement, and the award was presented to the department head instead of the composer.
Yeah.
Obviously, this changes because now we talk about, your Howard Shores, your Alan Silvestris, your Hans Zimmers.
Ludwig.
Your Ludwig Göranssons. We're thinking of the composers and not the actual, department heads. Wanted to point that out, that when you mentioned these, you did say the actual studio and the department heads. That's why. That's who the award went to.
Yeah, it's so wild because it does list who the composers were, but because this is still just such a studio system, doesn't really, it does matter, but it doesn't matter here at the Academy Awards.
It's not something they acknowledged.
Right.
Yeah.
So
pretty big thing. So, I mean, I've told you this before. Music is something, both song and score. A little more score these days than song, but that's more an issue of the 2000s on.
Thanks, Diane.
Yeah. She's at home. I got acknowledged. Is there an award for that? There's not, Diane. I'm sorry. So I obviously look for songs and score more so in my movies to kind of really tie it up, right? Is this a 5-star movie for me? What's the score like? So this is obviously a big year for me when it comes to music and the introduction of score. Very happy to see this move forward. And I do think composers should be acknowledged there. So I'm glad that changes in just about 4 years. Yeah. So the next category is going to be film editing. Also a new category.
Yeah.
This one also stays forever. And I'm very happy about that.
Yes, me too.
So with film editing, our nominees were Cleopatra, which was Anne Balkins, Eskimo, which was Conrad Nevig, and One Night of Love, which was Gene Milford. Now, it's worth mentioning that these films, Cleopatra was Paramount, Eskimo, MGM, and One Night of Love, Columbia. I want to go back 1 second. You mentioned that One Night of Love did take the win for score. This was the first win for Columbia this year. And this will be, for this year, this was Columbia's first win. And that will be of note because Columbia, as you've mentioned, Poverty Row Pictures isn't getting a lot of recognition. This changes shortly. So of these, Eskimo was the winner for Conrad Nevig.
Oh my goodness, there he is, Conrad Nagel in disguise.
They're like, Conrad, and he's like, oh, it's me,
run.
God, that's such a good bit. Eskimo, unfortunately, the only movie of these nominations that we have not seen.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like you would agree, of the ones we saw, I think we both would say Cleopatra was
for
the
editing,
clear winner.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's funny. Half of the job there is the production design, and with Cleopatra, just breathtaking.
Yeah, and being able to cut everything so perfectly together, especially in the battle sequence, I think is when we talked about the editing the most. just tremendous. When I went to the Paramount tour, they did bring up Ann Balkins and her editing for the Ten Commandments, specifically the Parting of the Red Sea. So I'm excited to see more of her work.
Candidly, I probably would have wanted to see Imitation of Life take a film editing nomination here.
Okay, yeah.
I think of those, like, more than One Night of Love. One Night of Love, I understand a little bit, like with all the songs and everything attached to it, how editing might be pretty important. But I really liked the editing and cinematography in Imitation of Life, so would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. Next category, we have sound recording. A lot of nominees here. We have The Affairs of Cellini, 20th Century, United Artists. Cleopatra, Paramount and Paramount Studio Sound Department. Flirtation Walk, First National, Warner Brothers. The Gay Divorcee, RKO Radio and RKO Radio Studio Sound Department. Imitation of Life for Universal. One Night of Love for Columbia. Viva Via for MGM. Douglas Shearer, I see you. And The White Parade for Jesse L. Lasky, Fox and Fox Studio Sound Department.
Something I didn't ask you when you went to UCLA to watch The White Parade, did you specifically look for the nominations that you knew of? Like, were you looking for the sound for sound recording?
Yeah, and actually, just because I recently edited the episode, we did talk about sound and how I was unable to hear so much of it because of the print itself.
Right.
So it was really hard to judge. And honestly, not really a standout among the list of nominees here. The winner was, in fact, One Night of Love, which I feel like the sound winner has leaned towards musical every year.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me.
Well, and especially not even just musical, but like the performances within that, the movie itself, not just the actress performance, but the singing is a large part of it with it being opera. So I think best sound recording makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
For One Night of Love.
That really is the most musical this year.
Yes.
As far as music being constant.
It's not the most musical like movie, but it is the most movie. It's the movie with the most music in it.
You're right.
That is a musical.
Yes.
That's correct. Just wanted to make sure I clarified that I didn't really think that was truly musical, but that's okay.
Oh, who was? I'm sorry. John Lavardi was the sound director for Columbia as well. I want to throw that out.
So that was sound recording, and that takes us to art direction. So for art direction, we had The Affairs of Cellini for 20th Century. This was Richard Day. The Gay Divorcee, RKO Radio, Van Nest Polglossi, and Carol Clark. And The Merry Widow for MGM, which was Cedric Gibbons and Frederick Hope. And the winner here was The Merry Widow. Have you seen this one?
I have not, no. But anytime Cedric Gibbons' name pops up, I'm like, oh, so he won, right? So this makes complete sense for me without having seen a single frame from the movie.
What other wins have we seen from Cedric Gibbons in the past?
Oh, boy. I knew you'd do it to me. Up to this point, he only won for The Bridge of San Luis Rey. But he will win many times Pride and Prejudice, Blossoms in the Dust, Gaslight, Little Women in 1949.
He gaslit Little Women?
He did. And it's a problem we're still dealing with today. An American in Paris, though, is a huge one.
For gaslighting women?
He did a lot. He did The Wizard of Oz. Let's move on.
I will say that Americans in Paris gaslighting women is an issue that we've been facing for a long time, and we need to solve that.
Somebody get on it.
Let's put our stamp on it right now. We need to solve that.
What's the next category?
It's writing. Something
cinematography.
we could benefit from. Oh, it is cinematography. Dang it.
So, the nominees for cinematography are, again, The Affairs of Cellini, 20th Century. That's Charles Rosher. Cleopatra, Paramount for Victor Milner. And Operator 13 for Cosmopolitan MGM, George Folsey. The winner here, of course, was Cleopatra, Paramount, and Victor Milner.
This is the one. We haven't seen Operator 13 or
Operation.
Don't even, God. The Affairs of Cellini, we haven't seen either of those, but Cleopatra makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Again, I really, really enjoyed the cinematography of Imitation of Life, but I feel like that was too few far between with some shots. Cleopatra was pretty much nonstop, and also you just can't deny the production design of that movie.
It's huge.
And we keep talking about the pan out of the musical sequence in which everyone's like drumming on the side and just gets larger and larger. great decision to pan out on that.
One of the best shots, I think, of the show so far.
Absolutely. I would agree.
Guys, watch Cleopatra.
Yeah.
I mean, we've mentioned that a couple times now, but there's your other Claudette Colbert film.
It's funny. Cleopatra has been mentioned and has popped up a lot and have won a couple things.
Yeah.
So you would think, hey, this is the movie that's Claudette Colbert is going to be remembered for this year.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We will.
Starting right now. Writing is going to be our next category. And of course, as always, this is split into two, adaptation and original story. Let's start with original story. Hideout for MGM. This was written by Maury Gratian. Manhattan Melodrama for Cosmopolitan MGM. This was written by Arthur Caesar. And The Richest Girl in the World, RKO Radio, written by Norman Krasna. And this was Manhattan Melodrama for Arthur Caesar.
Interesting. We didn't watch any of these.
No.
None of these were nominated for Best Picture.
12 nominations, and not one of them an original story.
Yeah.
Nomination.
At least not nominated. Yeah.
Which is...
Why don't we have any new, unique stories anymore?
Whenever someone wants to complain, and we've said this a little bit before too, but old man's going to continue to yell at the clouds. Whenever we hear someone complain about remakes and superhero movies and all that, it's like, we've been doing this for a long time, man.
And you know what? You like a lot of those movies.
So live with it.
Yeah. Deal with it.
And if you say, hey, I like Mutiny on the Bounty, we're going to say, which one?
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, oh, man.
Oh, you're a Les Mis fan?
Which one?
Let me open up my Rolodex of remakes.
Oh, you love the Broadway melody? Of what year?
And why?
And why? True. That was Manhattan Melodrama that took in the win, and then that takes us to adaptation. Adaptation is going to be the beginning of something pretty big here, so strap in. For adaptation, the nominees are It Happened One Night for Columbia, and this was Robert Riskin. The Thin Man, MGM. This was written by Francis Goodrich and Albert Hackett. And Viva Via for MGM, and was written by Ben Hecht. I will say, before we announce the winner, Thin Man probably would have been the one that I would have thought of going into this. If I'm 1934, I'd be like, Thin Man, let's go, baby. Just because I love it so much. But if you know what we're talking about, you know what we're talking about. And this was, It Happened One Night.
Yeah, it did.
Robert Riskin. Now, pretty monumental because this was the first win of the night for these. And it's worth noting that this was the order of the nominations that were announced, right?
Oh, was it?
The order that we're doing here.
Nice. I had no idea.
I assume that's true. I thought it was. I assume it's true. Who's to say? Anyways, so this is the first time that we've heard of It Happened One Night. So Frank Capra, from his last situation with Cavalcade.
Not Cavalcade.
Was it not Cavalcade?
Lady for a Day.
No. With Frank, was it Lloyd?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Where he was like, come get it, Frank.
Yeah, the
And
mix-up there.
Frank Capra was like, oh, I did it.
It's me. I'll sit back down.
Yeah, never mind. He has come back with a vengeance. And now, even though he didn't receive this award, he's like, great. My movie picked it up. Good job, Robert.
That's exactly what happened. His ears perked up and he's like, oh my God.
He said, it's happening.
I'm one step closer.
Now, if Frank Lloyd had done a movie this year, that would have been very funny.
Ugh.
Or if there's another writer whose name was close to Robert Riskin, and Frank's like, don't get excited, Robert.
Yeah. Wait until they say the whole name, Rob.
Hey, just a bit of advice. Don't jump up and yell yippee when you hear your first name. Wait for them to say the second. They're like, yeah, got it, Capra. Thank you. Yeah, so very cool. It Happened One Night, got its first win, and maybe it won't be the last.
Maybe. We'll see. The directing category here. It Happened One Night, Columbia, Frank, not Lloyd, Capra. One Night of Love, Columbia, for Victor Schertzinger. And The Thin Man for MGM and W.S. Van Dyke. And of course, once again, if you know, you know, It Happened One Night, Frank Capra took home the win. And this had been his dream. We talked about it on the last ceremony episode. When he started making movies, he said, oh, I'm going to win an Oscar. That's my goal. This changed everything for him.
It did. And, you can say, well, hey, it's common now when you think about, one battle after another, winning Best Picture, the 2026 Oscars, people would think, oh, cool, well, that's an award that
Paul Thomas Anderson,
PTA, thank you, is going to take home. Mm-hmm. And in reality, it goes to the studio, to the producers, to a number of people, but it's not solely to the director. So direction is really one of the only awards, unless they also wrote the movie, that goes to them directly. So,
Yeah.
not only was he right that he's going to be part of a movie that is going to win some Oscars, he actually got his own Oscar for the direction. So,
Good on you, Frank.
good job, Frank Capra. I'm sure everything's turning up for that guy.
And we'll continue to do so for a while.
And moving forward into this next nomination, or category rather, which is for actress, best actress in a leading picture, but back then it was just called actress. Claudette Colbert in It Happened One Night, Grace Moore in One Night of Love, and Norma Shearer in The Barretts of Wimple Street. And So Sorry, Grace Moore and Norma Shearer, Claudette Colbert took the win on this one.
Yeah, girl.
It's worth noting that this was one of Claudette's 3 films that were nominated for this year.
Yeah.
Imitation of Life, Cleopatra, and It Happened One Night, all 3 picking up nominations for Best Picture. So we had mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. Claudette Colbert had so little faith in this movie when she was making it and afterwards, of course, I'm referring to It Happened One Night, that she actually wasn't present for the ceremony here. She was about to board a train to New York. And she had found out, hey, you won. And she stopped her travel. They were actually able to hold the train, send her over to the Biltmore, and she was able to collect the award, thank everyone, and then get out of town, quite literally, and head to New York.
I would be so annoyed if I was on the train and they were like, oh, we have to hold for Claudette Colbert. She just won an Oscar. I'd be like, I've got places to go. Like, I can't wait.
I do love that conversation because not only is it a little meta for It Happened One Night of like a train being held up for Claudette Colbert.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But it's also funny for everyone on the train to be like, hey, why aren't we moving? Oh, well, Claudette Colbert had to go and accept an award. Oh, did she win for Cleopatra? No. Oh, did she win for Imitation of Life? She was great in that. It happened one night?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I love the idea. I would have loved if the train left. That would have been so meta.
Came back and Clark Gable's waiting. He's like, wouldn't hold it for you, honey.
Yeah. You think you're special, kid? That would have been good. Now,
it's like we're writing the movie ourselves.
yeah, this is a point to call out, too. Her lack of faith in the movie was one thing, but then also the massive campaigning and just praise around Betty Davis in particular is what led her to believe, like, oh, I have no chance. It's going to Betty.
Yep.
Because there's been all of these protests about her not getting nominated anyway. And even though she's not listed, now you can write in, she's going to take it home.
Well, and Grace Moore also being nominated, like she is an opera singer, and she did a really good job in that movie with acting. So you could understand Claudette Colbert's, I guess, lack of faith in that she would win for that movie specifically. Now, if she was nominated for Cleopatra or Imitation of Life, I have a feeling she'd be a little more confident. But again, she was not a big fan of working with Frank Capra and on It Happened One Night.
Yeah. The interesting thing here, like you said, Betty Davis and Myrna Loy, they were big contenders for the write-in, but obviously didn't win. At this point, they were still announcing the runner-ups in every category, and it's interesting to note that Betty Davis did have so much support that she placed third. She beat out Grace Moore. So it went Claudette Colbert, Norma Shearer, and then Betty Davis, who was not even a nominee. So that really is a testament to just that performance and kind of the support that Betty Davis had.
And that was a direct result of those write-ins that they allowed. So, well worth it.
Pretty wild. Can't wait to talk more about Betty Davis. I'm a Davis fan.
And Her Eyes.
Yeah. I need to listen to that song more.
I can't sing it, I don't think.
No, you can't.
I mean, I could.
You could.
I have the ability to, but I cannot. Yes. That's true.
Sorry, YouTube, for potentially being too good at what we do.
But if I get the notes wrong, does that count?
I don't know how it works. It's all that AI.
We're not going to test it.
Yeah. For Best Actor, we have Clark Gable in It Happened One Night, Columbia Pictures. Frank Morgan in The Affairs of Cellini, 20th Century United Artists. And William Powell in The Thin Man, MGM Pictures. And continuing the trend here, we have Clark Gable in It Happened One Night. I don't know if this was as much of a guarantee as, or if this was more of a guarantee than Claudette Colbert was, like if he was more confident in this.
I think in hindsight it is, because we know Clark Gable and his legacy. Mm-hmm. So when you hear, like, my first thought of going down this list with Frank Morgan, William Powell, and Clark Gable was, wow, I really liked William Powell in The Thin Man. How cool he was nominated alongside someone of the caliber of Clark Gable.
Right.
Right. And at the time, this wasn't the thought process for Clark Gable because he hasn't been fully established yet as that like leading man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Man, I really like It Happened One Night.
It's really good. I mean, obviously, it's the beginning of like screwball comedy and romantic comedy in general. So very notable win for Clark Gable for It Happened One Night.
That's 4 wins for It Happened One Night.
And clearly, they couldn't do 5. Or could they? Now, Best Picture is all that remains. Of course, outstanding production back then. And this is a great time to mention the Big Five. The Big Five is considered the hat trick. The most prestigious quality you can pull off at the Oscars. And that is, of course, getting a win in writing, either adaptation or original, direction, actor, actress, and Best Picture.
Do you know when this became something that was really talked about and known as the Big Five?
I think that when this happened, I have to look this up, but I imagine when this happened and then going into 1935's ceremony, I wonder if when the next film didn't pull that off, they were like, oh, wow, that must be a really massive feat that they did this because no other movie is doing that.
Yeah.
And maybe around like the late 30s, early 40s, they were like, oh, that's the Big Five. Like no one else could do it like they did.
Yeah.
But then the other thing, too, is maybe when it got to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is the next film to pull off the Big Five, I wonder if that was like, oh, the only other film to do this was It Happened One Night, and we're calling it this. So in my eyes, it's either the late 30s, early 40s, or the not 70s, but whenever
75.
75,
yeah.
Great.
You're right.
When 75, when One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out. I imagine that's roughly the time period they would have maybe coined this term.
You know, we talk about these books we have quite a bit, and while we've learned they're not the most reliable sources of all time,
especially the older editions.
Yeah, there is a part in here that mentions It Happened One Night winning Best Picture, Best Director, Actor and Actress, but then it says also it won Best Writing. Like, it doesn't treat it as the Big Five. It treats it as essentially the Big Four plus one, which is just weird.
The other thing to note, too, is that this was pretty early on in the Academy's history, not even in its 10th year. So there's a chance that they were still figuring out the weight of some of these awards, right? Was writing that big of a deal? Was actor even that impressive? Like, what exactly is considered above the line and below the line? Not something that's established until later on, but I imagine as we move forward in time, certainly towards the 70s, they're going to be seen with a little more prestige, and that's when maybe the big writing is considered more of the Big Five.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Either way, that does take us to Outstanding Production, and your nominees are The Barretts of Wimpole Street for MGM, Cleopatra for Paramount, Flirtation Walk for First National, The Gay Divorcee, RKO Radio, Here Comes the Navy, Warner Brothers, What Am I Gonna Do in a Submarine? The House of Rothschild, 20th Century United Artists, Imitation of Life, Universal, It Happened One Night, Columbia, One Night of Love, Columbia, The Thin Man, not Columbia, MGM, Viva Via, MGM, and The White Parade, Fox. And of those 12 nominations and all 12 that we watched, it was It Happened One Night.
Yeah, Frank!
So It Happened One Night has officially taken over.
Capra specifically.
Well, true, Capra specifically. It Happened One Night has taken over the Big Five. And it is the first film to win these 5 awards.
Yeah.
In that, one of only 3 as of this recording.
That's pretty wild.
Pretty impressive. So I think it's very cool. Obviously, the reason we do this show is because we love movies and we love talking about the history of these movies. And it's very cool to see something this impressive pulled off this early on.
Yeah.
And then it was held on to for about 40 years.
Yeah, just about. On the dot.
Just about, yeah, exactly.
So it's really exciting. I love It Happened One Night. It's definitely my favorite movie from this batch of movies. So I'm thrilled that it took home the Big Five. I just think the opportunity to see so many great performances from Claudette Colbert has been tremendous. Being introduced to Clark Gable, finally seeing a Frank Capra movie that I'm like, oh, I really like this one.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
The chemistry between William Powell and Myrna Loy and The Thin Man.
Yeah. Yeah, even stepping outside of obviously it happened one night. There's been so many incredible movies this year. Cleopatra was tremendous. The opportunity of going to LA to see the White Parade is still, I don't think it's really hit me yet. And sometimes when I go on Letterboxd, I looked at the reviews and how many people have actually logged it, and I'm just like, oh, I'm one of them, one of the few. So it's just been a very cool year overall.
Well, and we got to talk with Antonia Carlotta about The Imitation of Life, with her family's involvement in that movie. So really, really great year overall for the Oscars, for the pod to be able to do that. And, there's still some great stuff to come. We have an interview coming up here with two officials from the UCLA organization that are going to be able to speak to the restoration and preservation of film, something we're very passionate about.
So excited for that.
The whole reason you were able to see White Parade. So obviously very excited for them to join us and talk about this here shortly. But, sometimes the Oscars don't get it right. Sometimes the Academy doesn't get it right. And it's worth noting, whether we think that movie is going to win or not.
And now we have the Patreon exclusive Best Picture poll, where you, lovely members of the Patreon, get the opportunity to vote for what film you think truly deserved the Best Picture Academy Award.
Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong?
Who knows? We know because you voted. And the winner of the 7th Academy Award, Patreon exclusive Best Picture poll, that's such a mouthful.
We gotta find a better name for that.
Is The White Parade.
So we had one vote on this.
We did.
And it was from someone who, not you, hadn't seen the movie.
And you know what? That's the point of this poll. You guys get to vote. This is what the Academy does anyway. They don't watch all the movies.
That's
and then
true.
They're like, I pick this. So thanks for voting, Bryce. You liar. But that's the new winner. So sorry it happened one night. The true winner is the movie that good luck watching, I guess.
I would love to make a comment about this, but I just have not seen the movie.
Thanks for voting, everybody. You can do that in the future. Also on the Patreon, patreon.com/OUTAO podcast.
All right, look. Normally, this is where we would cut to talking about any questions, going through the questions that you have for us.
Or comments.
Statements, declarations, anything you may have. No one wrote anything.
Yeah.
And we're currently looking at maybe retooling this. Is there an easier way for you to do this? Is there like maybe a voicemail, something like that you can leave that we can play on the show and then discuss in real time? Couple things that we're running through, so we're going to reevaluate that, but let us know on the Discord, which you can get through our Patreon. Feel free to sign up and let us know what questions you have, comments, thoughts on maybe potentially putting in a voicemail here, doing these questions, and we would love to hear about it and include it in more ceremony episodes as we move forward.
Yeah, thank you. So without further ado, we're going to get into the interview we have with the two folks over at UCLA, Todd Wiener and Jillian Borders, to talk about film preservation and restoration. I'm really excited for this one. So enjoy the interview, and we'll catch you at the end of that.
See you on the other side.
All right, so we are here today with Todd Wiener, the motion picture curator at the UCLA Film and TV Archive, and Jillian Borders, the head of preservation. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So we talked a little bit right before I hit record. I came out to UCLA with the goal of watching the White Parade for the podcast. UCLA is the only place in the world that has a copy of that film available for viewing. So that right there is enough of a reason to thank you guys for what you do and just preserving film and rescuing, really, these old films that have become so difficult to find. So thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate that.
Well, I mean, Kyle, thank you so much for trekking out to the UCLA campus to our Archive Research and Study Center. I will confirm that The White Parade is our most requested title at the Archive Research and Study Center because of all you completists out there who want to see every nominated Best Picture. We also have to thank Letterboxd for that now. Everyone wants to complete their list.
Yeah.
So happy to report that you viewed our most requested title at UCLA.
Awesome. I'm honored to be one one of that rank. So I guess, I don't know if I want to jump right into this question, but what I'm most curious about with the White Parade, and I guess films similar to it, is what is preventing that movie from getting like a wide distribution of some type, and why is it not more easily available?
Well, we received the 20th Century Fox Nitrate print collection many, many decades ago. And there are some of the studios sent their fine grains to like Museum of Modern Art, and the original picture negatives went to Library of Congress. In many cases, because just the nature of what Fox did with their nitrate library, many of the nitrate prints at UCLA are the only surviving assets for the title. And fortunately enough, because I know in your White Parade episode you talked about some missing footage, there actually is an Italian dupe neg of the White Parade sitting at the Academy. So I'll come out right now and say, this is a title we've been trying to formally restore for over 10 years.
Wow.
And because of what happened with Fox, it got bought by Walt Disney Studios. We were kind of well under the way a while ago, and then everything was put on pause while that purchase of the studio happened in the library. But luckily, we have a great relationship with the Disney Archive folks, and we are happy to report that we've come to an agreement with the studios so we can move forward finally with a formal restoration. So that's kind of breaking news. And now we just have to fund the project. So we have a couple of funders in mind. I saw that on your episode that you offered to come be part of the preservation. So maybe we'll approach you guys. But yeah, it's a whole process. And this happens with many, many, many titles. So just because this title happened to be nominated for Best Picture, there's a lot of focus on it. Mm-hmm. But I can say that there are a lot of other early Fox titles in the same situation. Just this has a very special spotlight on it. So Jillian, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take up all the air in the room there.
No, and and it's not always about like what we have. We aren't always able to release these things. We have like legal agreements with our depositors and the donors, and so we kind of have to have that legal agreement with the studios and the copyright owners, and then there can also be like underlying rights with like the music or the intellectual property. So that's often a problem too. So if it was up to us, we would probably put a lot of things just like up for free on YouTube looking terrible, but it's not always up to us really what we can release into the world.
Right. Sure. I mean, that makes plenty of sense. And honestly, Jillian, that was one of my questions was, obviously restoration and preservation is a big part of it, but then distribution is a whole nother side. And my question was, let's say best case scenario, White Parade has all of the footage and everything that we need and it's a perfect restoration. That's not even something on UCLA for distribution. That would have to go through the studio, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And with some other titles, we'll often work with other boutique distributors like Flickr Alley or Criterion or Milestone. And sometimes we'll come to like an arrangement with things that we have restored that they are willing to pick up and distribute. But UCLA doesn't do any of our own distribution. At least we did a few random things in the past decades ago, but that's not really something that we do ourselves.
Okay. And to the, the partnership that you mentioned, like Flickr Alley or Criterion, I know Kino Lorber has like a copy of the front page. I'm not sure if this is the exact same cut, but Criterion has a His Girl Friday disc or case that comes with the front page that was from the restoration from UCLA, I believe. So is that a similar kind of like partnership that you're talking about where it can be just through like that one agency?
Sure. I mean, to take a really big step back, our preservation program was started in 1977 when we hired Robert Gitt, who kind of formed our preservation department and was our first preservation officer, and he hired a team. The archive was formed in 1965 at the UCLA campus, just to jump way back. And then we were supported by the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and they donated their Emmy-nominated collection to the school. Eventually, the film school formed a film archive shortly after that in 1968. And then in 1976, Bob Rosen was named the head of the archive, and basically the TV collection and the film collection were bonded together. And then Bob Gitt was hired to be to oversee preservation projects. So a lot of our early projects were big studio titles like His Girl Friday and, Frank Capra's Lost Horizon and, Double Indemnity. When, this was before home video really launched the studios into their remastering craze, obviously to first release on VHS, then DVD, so on and so forth. So a lot of the restorations you see nowadays with Criterion and Kino, they're actually accessing a lot of the photochemical preservation efforts we did way back in the day. So even though our name may not necessarily be attached front and center on these more recent restorations, they are utilizing our workflow as well as some of our preservation elements in case the original elements have been lost to deterioration. So that's kind of like a real big overview of our history and some of like how we launched really photochemical preservation programs that are even utilized to this day as everything's digitally restored.
Gotcha. I kind of like jumped the gun a little bit with The White Parade. I was so excited to talk about that movie specifically. But individually at UCLA, Todd, you are motion picture curator, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then Jillian, head of preservation. Individually, like what do those jobs entail?
Jill, you go first.
Okay, so I have a small staff. There's only there's 4 of us in the preservation department. So there's 3 staff members, and we work 3 that work on like pretty much everything from silent films up into the 2000s, and then we're working on like silent films, features, documentaries, animation. And we work a little bit with the television curator to do a little bit of TV restoration. Previously, we were doing photochemical restorations and preservations of projects, but we've been that's definitely tipped the scale into doing primarily digital restorations, and though we still do some film back out onto film work, primarily with our partners at the Packard Humanities Institute. And then we also have part of my department is also working with the Hearst Metrotone newsreels. So we have 27 million feet of film. That's the entire run of the Hearst newsreels from the teens into the 60s. And that's like all of the released newsreels that would have been shown theatrically, like before a feature, as well as all of the outtakes and the like trims and other, what am I calling it? Cuts, outs, vault material, which is the other stuff that was shot that wasn't used or that they bought from other companies to use. And as a plug, we're doing a project with the Packard Humanities Institute where we're scanning all 27 million feet of that newsreel footage and then putting it online at the website developed by the Packard Humanities Institute, which is at newsreels.net. So you can see all of that footage that's been scanned. There's like 20,000 stories that are up for free. I work closely with Todd where we're choosing like kind of the priorities and with the director of the archive. But then my team is actually like overseeing the restorations. So a lot of the digital restoration work, it goes out of house to outside like post-production houses and different like sound engineers. And so my department does a lot of the inspection, going through elements, trying to find the best source for a restoration. And then we're also creating budgets, doing grant proposals to try to get funding, and then kind of overseeing the projects.
Since Jillian mentioned the newsreel site, I'll do a shameless plug to you and your audience. The Hearst Metrotone News Company photographed a lot of the Academy Awards. And if you go to the website and you search for the specific year you're talking about, you'll probably see footage of, a lot of the nominees and the winners. We work with the Academy because they don't have early footage of the early Academy Award shows. So a lot of times they license footage from us to include it on their current shows. So it's a great resource, particularly for your podcast. So definitely want to call attention to that.
Man, thank you for that, because I've had listeners ask, like, hey, when you guys get to the years that were broadcast on television, are you going to watch them? And I'm just like, I don't know. If we can find them, we'll see. So that's incredible. That's very cool.
Newsreels.net. Yeah.
Wow. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes, so everyone can find it down there.
Absolutely. And Todd, as far as your title, what does your day-to-day kind of look like?
So Jillian mentioned the television curator, who is Mark Quigley. So I'm the motion picture curator that oversees 355,000 motion picture holdings at the UCLA Film and Television Archive. We're the second largest archive in North America after the Library of Congress. We hold major nitrate collections for all the studios: Universal, Warner Brothers, Paramount, and Disney, which now owns the Fox Library. So a lot of my daily activity is interacting with our collection services department as they triage the collection and go through our holdings and alert the motion picture department if there's deterioration. I'll reach out to a studio depositor or one of our regular depositors that include collectors. And it's my job basically to make sure that these titles are protected. So a lot of that is work with our community, which is part of the International Federation of Film Archives. We're also a member of the Association of Moving Image Archives. So there's this whole network that we're all talking to each other to make sure these films are protected. And if we happen to have the best elements and they're deteriorating, it becomes a priority for preservation. And Jillian and I keep kind of a master spreadsheet where we have titles that really we want to call attention to our donors and all the people who support our preservation efforts. So a lot of my work is triage. We have a very robust loan program. So I work with Associate Motion Picture Curator Stephen Hill, so we can loan all our archival prints that are protected or our restoration projects to archives and festivals and institutions around the world. So it's a lot. I wear many different hats throughout the day. Also supporting the Archive Research and Study Center, which Kyle knows so well. So a lot of times we'll get researchers from all around the world that want to see something super rare. And Maya Montañez-Smuckler, who's the head of our Archive Research and Study Center, will reach out to me and say, hey, we have a researcher who really needs to see this title for the book they're writing. And I will sort of do a quick preservation triage and say, yes, we can transfer that. Or if it's a restricted title and we can't necessarily transfer it for research, I'll try and dig to see how we can help this researcher out and point Maya in the right direction to help this researcher. That's just a real Cliff Notes version of what I do every day. So hopefully that wasn't too much.
No, that's incredible.
Now, when we talk about those roles, obviously a big part of that is, the history of film. How did the two of you come to seek out a position like this? Like, what was your background with movies?
Well, I had just gone to school for history and then separately film critical studies. And this was kind of the perfect way to kind of combine those two interests. So when I was finishing college, there was a lot of programs were just starting, these graduate programs. So UCLA and NYU started programs around the same time for graduate schools for film restoration, or not film restoration, film archiving. So I have it's a joint degree between the library school and the theater, film, and television. That's moving image archiving. And now there's 20 years of graduates from those programs. So a lot of our new staff come from those different programs, and there's a few other programs around the country. So that's what happened for me. But then a lot of people I work with also come from a technical lab background, coming from the editing world or working at film labs over the decades.
Awesome.
I started at the archive in 2000, February of 2000, and kind of came from a more unconventional background. And a lot of the people who worked at the archive way back then had various backgrounds. Like Jillian mentioned, you might be a film splicer for a lab, or somebody with a history degree, or just a film buff. I had read Ronald Haver's book on the making of The Star is Born, Judy Garland's Star is Born, the 1954 film. And he was the film curator at LACMA. And the last quarter of the book is about the restoration. And this is back in like 1983, one of the first big major restorations. Um, you could do a whole episode on why that film did not win Best Picture, and we won't go there. But and why Judy Garland lost the Oscar to Grace Kelly. But I digress.
We'll have you back on to talk about that. Don't worry.
So I'm a huge musical fan. That's one of my favorite films, one of the greatest films about Hollywood. So I read that book, and that's was like, oh my God, film restoration is an actual thing. And I was so intrigued because, the studio had cut the film by 30 minutes, including a huge number of Judy Garland's. And I was just like amazed at this process, and just started doing a lot of research on my own. Thankfully, my dad had turned me on to classic Hollywood films as a very, very young man. And just that passion just led me to kind of stalk the Academy and then the UCLA Archive. And Rosa Gayarza was the head of collections in 2000, hired me based on my enthusiasm. And I got an amazing mentorship at the archive. I used to go finish my work in the collection services and go work for the archivist. And I discovered that's work I loved and I really wanted to pursue. And I just kind of kept my vision. So that's how I fell into it.
Yeah, I was going to say there's lots of different fields within the archive world. There's programming or more curatorship or preservation, cataloging. But yeah, it seems like Todd and I both kind of found the one. I was like, I don't want to do those other things. I don't want to manage a major collection. I just want to do preservation. And it kind of worked out well for both of us, it looks like.
Yeah, I would say so. It seems like you've both been doing this for quite some time now, and obviously you're enjoying it. And Todd, you kind of dove into, how you got into film with your dad turning you on to classic cinema. Jillian, did you have something similar when you were young?
I think it's the same. My mom was always really interested in old movies, and so we'd watch a lot of, I guess at that time, AMC, right? Before it changed over. But yeah, and old movies on TV and stuff. So also it's kind of a passion for classic Hollywood.
Awesome.
It's a similar thing for both of us. I started working at a Blockbuster, and just the ability flashback. So the ability to see people coming in and, having a similar interest in the things that they talk about, it was just something that kind of united my passion. So it's really cool to hear other people talk about the passion they have for movies as well, especially when it takes you to such a, historical area like you both serve. So when we talk about the actual process of restoration, what does that, or preservation, what does that process actually look like from the ground floor? Is there a list of movies that you have determined, we don't have full footage of, or do have footage? What would that process look like?
Well, we kind of are trying to prioritize things that are in our own collections. And so we'll kind of first, I'll page in everything from the vaults that's related to that film, look at it on the bench still, wind through the film. We'll work with our partners at archives all around the world. That's when Todd comes in and contacts all of them and gets agreements with them so that we can borrow the materials. And then just kind of trying to determine what's the earliest generation, the closest to the original, but we also are looking for version issues. Like Todd mentioned with Star is Born, there's things missing, things might have been re-edited for re-release. And we were working on some animated shorts more recently, and with animated shorts, a lot of those were sold for television. So they'll have the television company just lopped off the old logos and the old title cards that had Paramount Pictures or whatever the studio was, and they'll just replace it with their own title cards. So we're also trying to see where things like that have happened, so we can either try to find a version of the original title somewhere or try to digitally recreate it. And then once we have those elements, and then we put together budgets, start looking for funders. We get a lot of our funding for our staff time, salaries comes through like the university and through the state, but all of our restoration funds have to be either they all have to be fundraised. We either have to get grants for them or talk to individual donors. So that's a bit of a process too. And sometimes you have a project that you want to do, but we don't have a funder that's willing to pay for it. And so you just kind of have to keep that on our list as something that we want to work on until you can find a project that kind of matches up with the donor. Fortunately, we have good relationships with a lot of foundations like the Film Foundation, which is Martin Scorsese's foundation, as well as the National Film Preservation Foundation and Century Arts Foundation. So, and then, the work will commence. So there's a lot of like pre-work involved before like an actual project gets underway. And then in the old days, we would make film elements. We'd go to a film lab. They'd make film elements. We'd have to first repair all the original elements, like fixing the perforations and splices so that you could print them. And now we're still doing kind of that repair work so that it can be scanned. And then, as I mentioned before, there's other like outside post-production houses that are doing a lot of the physical, the computer time where they're doing the color correction and the digital restoration, like actual dirt cleaning and everything. We have some of those capacities in-house. We have our own scanners and us, but we have a very small staff that's able to do that. So with some of these bigger titles, if you're talking 200 hours of digital restoration time, we don't have the staff for somebody to sit there and do that. So that'll get kind of outsourced. Same with the audio, and then we'll bring it in, but then we'll go and visit the labs and kind of consult and, go through the color and the just kind of QC everything. We still, even though our history is kind of in classic cinema, we do a lot of films from more recently, like the 80s and 90s, especially independent cinema. And so in a lot of cases, the filmmaker is still alive for things like that. So we're able to bring them in and have them come for like the color so that they can sit with the colorist and kind of make their own notes and make sure that what we're doing matches kind of their original intention for the film.
Do you have like a recent example of one of those kind of scenarios that you've dealt with?
I mean, what's really interesting is people get surprised that we're doing some films from the 80s and 90s, and Jill brought up independent films, and we have a very close relationship with the Sundance Institute. And a lot of these independent films only had like 20, 25, 30-year distribution deals. And we're like, a lot of my work is trying to figure out who owns the title now. I mean, you'd be surprised. I get calls all the time from producers, and we have no idea where our original picture negative is. Is it happened to be something? Because there was a period of time where the archive got phone calls from labs saying, hey, we're shutting down. All this is being thrown in the trash if you can't come and rescue it. We were able to work with archives like the Academy and Library of Congress and Museum of Modern Art in New York, to rescue as much as we could, like when Duart closed and, certain deluxe facilities. And now we have the big Technicolor closure. And, a lot of times these production companies no longer exist. Maybe the producer thinks that the director has the elements, the director thinks the producer has the elements. And then all of a sudden this film that got all this recognition in the 80s and 90s, whatever, like no one knows where the original picture negative is. And that's a lot of our work right now, is trying to find those elements. And Jillian and I work very closely with our constituents at Sundance and other archives trying to locate these things. And there's some pretty big titles. I'm not going to give any directors' names, but I've gotten phone calls. I'm like, oh my God, they don't know where this negative is. It's like, that was a big picture in the 90s. So yeah, anyway, I probably went off on a little tangent there, but
You said you had listened to an episode of the podcast, so I think we believe in tangents here, so that's A-okay. Well, and that that brings up a good point, is that this is happening more often than people think. So when it comes to like the general public, is there something that the general public can do to continue like helping preservation, restoration, like the efforts that you're doing here? Is there anything we and everyone else can contribute to?
I think Sally would say cinema.ucla.edu/donate.
Beautiful.
But yeah, we there are ways to donate to the archive, and we take small donations and medium size, large, what have you. And there's a portal on our website that kind of explains that process. Like Jillian mentioned, we have these great relationships with foundations, but film foundation restoration could cost almost $200,000, and they're funding film outs, which is a new digital intermediate negative. So that's amazing that we have this resource, and we can go to smaller donors and try and get ephemeral subjects restored, or short subjects. We have a great relationship with the CIFA Hollywood, and they fund animation restorations for us, and they just do incredible work. So there's just all different types of flavors of support. There was the Laurel and Hardy Fund to help us preserve Laurel and Hardy titles, and we got small donations from all the Laurel and Hardy tents around the country to support those efforts. So many different opportunities.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about buying physical media,
Yes.
which is important, but also, just going to your local Cinematheque or wherever that shows like archival screenings. I think it just helps to show that there's a demand for these kind of things, and we often didn't think about just, you go to a screening and you're like, oh, this is an old film, but it could be like that film's been housed in an archive all these years, and that's why it's still available if you were able to see things as prints. I'm not sure what kind of repertory cinemas in Atlanta.
Yeah, we're actually very fortunate. We have an independent theater here that they just showed like a bunch of pre-code cinema. I can't remember specific titles, but we also have like a video rental store that just is such a huge resource for seeing all of, I imagine a lot of the films that, UCLA has helped restore and put out. So I'm always looking for places around Atlanta to like showcase, like, look at all these films that were almost lost, and now come see them, come check them out. So, and we're trying to do more of that as well, make it out to those theaters and just mingle with everybody else who shares the common interest.
And I have to say, bring up Letterboxd again. That has been huge for the community, and I see so many people comment about this was a restoration by UCLA, this was a restoration by the Academy, and really that Letterboxd community is really supporting these efforts and making the awareness so much stronger, which I greatly appreciate.
That's one of my favorite things about the White Parade on Letterboxd is every single comment is just like, I had to travel all the way from Norway, and the movie was fine. So,
and that whole archive research and study scenario that you shared about your viewing experience was great. In all my years at the archive, I've never heard it told in such detail. And you even pointed out the Frank Borzage study guide that was put out for the students on the UCLA campus, which I love. I mean, a lot of those study guides can be found on our website, so they don't have to be just received physically in person. But yeah, thanks to the great work of Maya and Lihia and the Archive Research and Study Center for really promoting kind of cinephile research and doing a deep dive. I mean, we have Dorothy Arzner's collection of films at UCLA, and the UCLA library has her papers. So it's kind of a great symbiotic relationship that we have with the UCLA library in many cases with these study guides.
Wow. Thank you for any kind of praise with my detailed description of everything. Because I wish that you could have saw me on like security cameras or something. I was so excited and nervous. I was almost to the point where I was like, somebody's going to think I'm just some weird guy that wandered in here. Because I'm like, I don't know, like a little kid in a candy store. And then when I saw the study guides, I was like, I would like to live here, please. Because as cool as it is here in Atlanta to have like the movie theater I just talked about in the video rental store, obviously it is not the same scale as Hollywood and California and UCLA specifically. So having access to those materials so readily available, I was just thrilled. I want to go back.
Yeah, so we have, the Research and Study Center is on campus, but Todd and I both work up like 30 miles north in Santa Clarita, where we have a large vault facility, beautiful facility built by the Packard Humanities Institute. And so that's where all of our nitrate is stored, as well as our safety film and just all of our like offices and workrooms. But yes, our home for public programming is at the Hammer Museum, which is where our theater is.
As far as projects that you both have worked on while in these positions, do you have like favorites or most memorable or things that, I don't know, you got as excited as I did when I walked in and saw Frank Borzage pamphlets next to the counter?
Well, Todd and I have talked before. We've worked pretty closely with Todd Haynes. And so there's a short film of his that we shouldn't mention by name that we got to restore. That's like my all-time favorite restoration. But unfortunately, it can't be readily screened because of copyright issues. But
let's just say Barbie dolls were utilized in it.
Fair. As they often seem to be. Yeah. I think Tim Burton's first short was Barbie dolls. How about for you, Todd?
You know, just because it really is indicative of how long restoration can take, our recent restoration of Smog, the Italian film that was shot in Los Angeles in 1962, Franco Rossi. This was, for a while, we thought we had the only existing print. And I had reached out to all the studios and other archives, and no one knew of any elements. No one knew of any other prints. And, you know, as I said before, we support our programming department. And so Mimi Brody was a programmer at the time. And she's like, she was doing a series on films about Los Angeles, and she really wanted to program it. And that's what put it on my radar, gosh, almost 20 years ago at this point. And then it became like this cult favorite for everybody who was interested in Los Angeles mid-century architecture, and also foreign film is rarely seen. So we screened it again for a conference about Los Angeles, and then we screened it again, and just like this slow kind of like build, it was becoming this slow cult classic in Los Angeles. And I befriended George Feltenstein over at Warner Brothers, and he's just this copyright guru. And one day we happened to be chatting on the phone, which we frequently do about copyright, you know, because we're nerds. And I said, I can't find any elements for this film, and it's vexing us. And he's like, wait a minute, I think we might own this, because it was released through MGM through Titanus, which was an Italian company. It turns out Warner Brothers didn't even know they owned this film, and they ended up having the original picture negative as well as an extended version fine grain. And we had always heard that there was this footage that was not part of our print. And then it took several more years of working with the studio and then partners at the Cineteca di Bologna, who was also very interested in the film given its Italian origins. And it just was this epic kind of from start to finish. It was almost 15 years, I think, to get this film restored to its full version and basically out there in public. Well, it's not completely out there in public yet, but we're working on it.
Wow.
For all the reasons mentioned before.
Right.
I know we both chose things that we like can't.
Yeah.
that you can't get. No.
Well, that's the running theme, sometimes. Right? It's like, we have this really cool thing. You can come watch it, maybe.
Right. Well, you can watch Smog at our Archive Research and Studies Center, and
okay.
I do know that there's conversations going on so it can get a broader release. So
Awesome.
yeah, it just sometimes takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that we preserve that are just out on print. Like we have prints that we could loan places, so in that way they're accessible, but not to just anybody at home, which is too bad.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Let's see. London After Midnight is like the common one that gets brought up of just like a lost film that everybody's dying to see. Is there like a specific film or piece of media that is lost that both of you are like, boy, that would be the dream if that turned up somewhere and we could work on that?
Well, I'm a huge Lubitsch fan, so I always think the Patriot's going to be in someone's attic, or it's pretty amazing that nitrate holdings are still being found. I had heard of this projectionist in the Washington, D.C. area who had a whole attic full of nitrate. He sadly passed away in the last couple of years, but now that entire collection that had been a rumor that I knew about for like over 15 years, all of that nitrate is now at the Library of Congress, and they've made several significant discoveries, and that's just in the last couple of years. So I'm hopeful that the London After Midnight and the Patriot and are sitting somewhere unidentified. Keeping my fingers crossed. Jillian, do you have any?
No, I don't have a specific title, but I love to finding things is my favorite thing. So even though now our holdings are a lot better inventory than they once were, you can't just happen upon a total mystery can, but there's still plenty of things where you're like, this is just like a one word title and it's like, we don't know where we got it. That's pretty exciting to go look and see if you might still find something. But yeah, Todd was, his department, they ended up finding in the Northwest, there was a projectionist and his son, I'm not quite getting the story right, but he had buried these prints, he was kind of the end of the line, but he had coated them all in oil and buried them underground. And yeah, Stephen Hill and Rosa went out and picked up these films, and some of them were lost silent films, because there's tons of silent films that are missing or didn't survive. And in which case we would put it out if it had a missing reel, we would make an inner title that said, or a bridging title that would say try to tell you what information was missing in that. But yeah, so discoveries still happen, and you would think it wouldn't anymore. We thought, we don't need to build any more nitrate storage. They're not making it anymore. But we are finding that collectors had some of this stuff, and collectors who were at one point the bane of the studio's existence, are now the ones coming through, and they really had 16 show-at-home versions of a lot of these silent films, or that's all that exists, since the studios don't have those holdings anymore.
When I was out in LA, I went to the Paramount studio tour out there, and I got to walk through the archives, and I asked a similar question to the archivist there, and he said that they recently found the director's cut of an old Hammer horror film that was in a box labeled made for TV, and it was mislabeled, so it ended up being the nitty-gritty version with nudity and whatnot. And that, to me, that's my favorite question that now I ask archivists, because there's always that moment of, yeah, and then we found this, and they get excited, like if you found $20 in your pocket or something, which I imagine that process is. The second something turns up, you're thrilled, because you're like, this was lost. Up until this moment, this was gone.
And we have a lot of stories like that. I mean, one in particular recently that happened was, so we have the nitrate print of The Man I Love, which is a great Ida Lupino movie that was released by Warner Brothers. So what happened was the studio lost rights to one of the songs. She plays a singer in the film, and the studio lost rights to one of the songs. And instead of paying the money to renew that license, they just cut the number out of the original picture negative. So Warner Brothers did an absolutely beautiful restoration job of The Man I Love recently, and George had done a lot of research on the title and was like, there's a song missing from the original negative. could you pull your nitrate print and see if it's in there? And lo and behold, we had the original studio nitrate print with that song in it. So they pulled the nitrate print, remastered that section. Now it's part of the remastered film again. So we have little discoveries like that happening all the time, which is really cool.
And it also seems like as soon as you've put in a ton of money to restore something, and that's when someone's like, oh, actually, we just found this other piece of it. And then you're like, how much money will that be to like now integrate that part into it?
Of course.
So that's like, like a Murphy's Law.
Right, right.
Yeah.
As soon as you finish, you're like, oh, great, thank you. Thank you, Attic Collection.
Right.
One last question, and then we can start wrapping up. With just the massive amount of film and media that you archive or keep in the archives, do you get to the point where for a certain film, you're just like, we probably won't need this, and then you get rid of it? Or is it like you save everything?
We actually need to cull the collection for space issues, and there's a lot of preprint elements from back in the day that are like foreign language overlays, which is like a negative of the subtitle. And now all that's done digitally now. So there are a lot of foreign language overlay elements in our collection that just came to us, over the decades. So those aren't needed anymore because you need to just do those digitally because you want to restore the film with a clean image, and then everything is like that is added electronically. We have tons of duplicative prints that have came, we don't need 7 faded prints of Jaws. That film's been beautifully restored by Universal several times over. So we're going through the collection. A lot of things that came to us over the decades were from collectors. So every collector had 4 or 5 of the same title, and we're going through and reaching out to them and saying, hey, this has been beautifully remastered. No one's going to screen this faded print or deteriorating print. So we really rely on our fantastic collection services team to help us kind of cull the collection down. But we'll always keep an original picture negative as long as it isn't crumbling. Any sort of master original picture negative, inner positive, fine grain, so on, like those master elements, we always keep.
I give you credit. I have 2 copies of The Crow that I got when I was a teenager, and I still am like, what if I need both of them one day? Like, I can't do it. So that's incredible.
Now, is that a film copy or a DVD copy?
No, it's just a DVD. It's like the one I would get in the Walmart $5 bin, so it's not even special. Okay. I just have a problem, I guess. But you
are not alone, my friend.
Right. That's good news. Is there anything you guys want to promote that obviously I'm sure there'll be tons of links that you can give me that I can put in the show notes. The newsreel thing is incredible. I can't wait to look more into that. But is there anything else that you want to kind of speak upon?
I mean, I had mentioned our YouTube page before, but I specifically want to point you to our Loretta Young home movies. I got permission from Loretta Young's son, Chris, to put her home movies on. And there are home movies of the White Parade on our YouTube channel. Actually shot by Loretta Young and Loretta Young's, I think, sister, because there are a lot of shots of her on the set in there. But there's some great home movie footage of Loretta Young in the White Parade on our YouTube page.
That's awesome. That's actually one of the first things I saw when I was looking for the White Parade before I realized how rare it was. So thank you for reminding me that those exist, because I can't wait to watch those now.
Same.
Yeah. Did you have anything, Jillian, that you wanted to promote or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Jillian's working on a lot of fun stuff right now, so
I'm looking forward to hearing about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you both so much for your time and just the opportunity to speak with you. Like I said, there's nothing like UCLA and the archive here in Atlanta. And while I will call myself a layman when it comes to all of this, I get so excited about the preservation and everything else, the restoration. So to speak with you guys has just been an absolute honor and privilege, and we both thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate you bringing up the subject of preservation and remastering and buying physical media. That just helps our work immensely. And appreciate listening to those conversations on your podcast. So thank you.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed listening to it, and it's kind of nice to have a little dose of enthusiasm sometimes when you do this as a job, and then you realize like sometimes you're like, oh, this is, kind of to get some of that just enthusiasm back is great, and kind of reminds me why we're doing this.
Well, that makes it all worth it to help you guys feel a little motivated here and there, because we have talked with a lot of people who feel the same way that we do with physical media and restoration, and people who are doing the so-called death races to watch as much as possible. And we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are right now, and we're only in 1935 without the efforts that you both put in. So thank you so much.
Yes, truly.
Great. Nice
Perfect.
to meet you, both of you.
Thank you.
care.
Once again, our thanks to the UCLA organization for lending their experts to us to have a conversation about preservation and restoration in film. Massive thing for us to tackle. And I'm really excited that they were able to join us.
Yes, thank you so much to Todd and Jillian both for lending us your time and your expertise. And a big shout out to Sally over at UCLA as well, who was able to connect us and help set up the entire conversation. In all my years of doing the show, including the original iteration, this year has by far been the coolest of just opportunity. Not only did we get to speak with UCLA, but I got to go out to UCLA and watch the White Parade. We spoke again to Antonio Carlotta. Like, it's just been so cool.
You got to see David Lynch's gravesite.
I did, and while that was kind of for me and not for the show, like the opportunities
He made
abound.
a movie.
He did. One that got nominated for Best Picture.
There you go. See, that's for the for the pod.
It is. But overall, it's just been such a dream come true for all of these opportunities. I'm looking forward to so much more. We have so many things in the works, and we say it every ceremony episode, but just happy to be here with you, Ryan. So grateful to have you along on the show.
Well, happy to be here, brother. It's been, like you said, a massive month for us of opportunity. 1934 has been a very good year for us, and I'm looking forward to 1935 and the years to come and all the great opportunities to come from it, because I don't think this is it.
Absolutely not. Speaking of the 1935 year, we will be splitting up again this next year into half of July and then the remainder of August, because there are 12 nominees. To run through those nominees very quickly, we have Alice Adams, The Broadway Melody of 1936, Captain Blood, David Copperfield, The Informer, Les Miserables, I struggle every time, The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Mutiny on the Bounty, Naughty Marietta, Ruggles of Red Gap, and Top Hat. 12 giant films, some really big names. Off the cusp, anything that really stands out to you?
Mutiny on the Bounty is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Top Hat, because I like Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire so much. Mm-hmm. That's standing out to me. I have heard David Copperfield, haven't seen anything from the movies, so very excited for that.
Yeah.
Broadway Melody of 1936, I think our first sequel, remake?
At least from a franchise. I don't know what it's considered, honestly.
We'll see when we cover it. But obviously not the first remake to exist that was nominated for an Oscar. But in this case, the first nominated movie that is a sequel to a nominated movie or a remake of a nominated movie.
The first one to make you go, oh, wait.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, with this, very excited to see a movie titled after my experiences of living in Marietta, Georgia. Naughty Marietta.
There you go.
My biopic. So I'm excited for you to see a little bit about that.
I can't wait to see that scene.
It's the one. Well, it's what the production code doesn't want you to see.
Yeah, but the one that I really want you to see.
Out. It's coming.
New category in this coming year. Musicals are coming out of the gate just massive. So we have a dance direction category. So that'll be fun to talk about. But yeah, excited for another month. Looking forward to you guys tuning along with us.
Do you think that anybody in that year heard that Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire had another movie coming out, and then there was a dance choreography or dance direction award, and they were like, okay, sure.
I think Busby Berkeley heard and was like, bet. So, yeah, another 12 films coming your way. This one...
Final year where this happens.
Yeah, that's true. And then, oh man, things are going to get sweeter and sweeter as we go on. So that's going to do it. If you guys have thoughts about anything at all, shoot us an email at outaopodcast@gmail.com, specifically movie related.
Yeah, anything at all about movies.
Honestly, though, if you want to shoot us an email and just see how we're doing, that always helps.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. But check out the Patreon, patreon.com/OUTAO podcast, and stay tuned for more cool things. Horror of the Overlook should be coming up here. No, it just happened 2 days ago. Hope you enjoyed it. Every 13th of the month is our Patreon bonus show where we cover the overlooked horror movies that the Academy Awards said, nah. So I think that's it. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening. As always, I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
And we'll see you at the movies.